All right, we got a new camera angle going here today on the live stream, baby. Right there it is. If you want to watch the show, you can do it any day on our social media platforms at KCMO Talk Radio. X seems to be the place most people are watching the live stream. You can see it on the Facebook page, Instagram, other places, Mark. It's pretty much everywhere you're looking for it.
Yeah.
Find us. If you want to see what the radio show looks like, there it is. And I would ask a favor, because as I get older, when I go get my hair cut, I always tell the lady, if you could see any hair on my ear, go ahead and get it. Because I can't. I've got progressive glasses that I wear, which is great. But then when you turn your head a certain way in the mirror and you're looking for any, are you growing ear hair yet, Mark?
Not quite yet.
Okay, that you know of.
Not that I know of.
Somebody really close to you has to let you know when this happens. So if you see that, just give me a heads up. That's what people, when I was on television in the 90s in Kansas City, it was amazing. We would get letters, just letters in the mail. Your tie's crooked. That blue didn't go with that green or, whatever. And it was unbelievable. Your hair wasn't parted right. That's too much. It's crazy when you're on video what people think and what they say. So let us know. Reach out. Tell us what you think of the new shot here. We've got the banner right behind us. We'd love for you to watch the live stream. Consume this show any way you like on your Alexa device, smart home, in your car, anywhere you are. KCMOTalkRadio.com. Listen live every day. We're happy to be here with Uncanceled. We got a lot to discuss today on the broadcast, including Swifties being Swifties. That's coming up in about 30 minutes. They're awful. I'll say it. The worst of them are as bad. Again, it's not all of them. There's a whole bunch of sweet girls out there that don't get involved in this, but the militant left of the Swifties are really awful, and they've done some awful things. We'll get into that. We will talk about the Mahomes versus Rocker proposed boxing match, which is not Patrick Mahomes, it's Pat Mahomes. He's the original. We'll get into that. We'll get Mark's thoughts on that as well. And the new D.C. Super Bowl. It's all straight ahead. But we start today with the topic of star bonds in Kansas. As the Kansas City Star wrote what I think is, for them, a relatively fair article. And maybe they're moving into a space now where they're like, we can't just keep hard left pushing everything we're doing. First of all, it's a terrible business model for the Star. Secondly, that's sort of dead and not cool anymore. So you might not want to do it. And they start out a story about whether star bonds are good ideas or not. And they point out that a year and a half from now, star bond legislation in Kansas will expire. They'll have to extend it in the state of Kansas. Let me state my position up front, unequivocally, unabashedly. This goes against Patrick Tuohy, Pete Mundo, a whole bunch of great conservatives. I consider myself a conservative, but there is one principle above that I'll explain in a couple of moments. I am unabashedly for star bonds. I think Missouri should be passing legislation to have star bonds to keep the Chiefs and Royals. That's to keep something. Now imagine the difference of using star bonds to lure something. When you have a state like Kansas, does Texas need star bonds to lure Tesla from California to Texas? No, they don't. Why? Massive population, highly educated people in the Austin area, and no state income tax. They also have lower corporate taxes. That's easy. It's an incentive to move from California to Texas. Kansas can't do that. It's not big enough. Kansas has to find other ways to be creative. The star bonds are such a thing. There is no looking back on what the star bonds did for Wyandotte County. You can't even, bean counters, you can call the show all day and tell me it hasn't made sense. No, it's made all the sense in the world. That was a desolate area that as a community of 2+ million people, we made fun of. It was a running joke in Kansas City. Kansas City, Kansas was a running joke, and it is no more. I'm old enough and I've lived here long enough to watch that transformation. The star bonds worked. What is there is something that me and my family, we live in Johnson County. Do you know how much money we've spent in Wyandotte County over the last 20 years because they did that we didn't spend in Johnson County? You can't quantify it. Quality of life matters. Experience in your quality of life matters. NASCAR races, soccer matches, minor league baseball. My God, I don't know how much I bought at Nebraska Furniture Mart over the years. I don't even want to know. I got a restaurant out there that I like to go to called Yard House. The only other one's downtown. I'm going out there. I've always liked yard houses. There's all kinds of things that we enjoy. And it's been a huge success, even if at times with certain entities, the dollars didn't add up. It brought business to Kansas, and it helped Wyandotte County and KCK. I hold the politicians accountable in Topeka for train wrecks like Prairie Fire. Prairie Fire at 135th Street in roughly Null Row, right in there. Okay, they passed star bonds and they built something that people didn't want to go to. When you start building museums, you're asking for trouble. What museum in Kansas City is not funded by rich people donating money for a tax break? They all are. This entire month, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is free because the Royals gave them $350,000 to cover the cost of anybody that wants to go there free. The Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is a real gem in Kansas City, but it cannot sustain itself. You don't give star bonds to those things. And you don't do it in the most expensive real estate in Kansas City that was going to get developed anyway. 135th Street and all in Overland Park was going to get developed with private dollars. You say no to the star bonds. This is on the politicians. This is not on whether star bonds are a good idea or not. They need to continue star bonds in Kansas. And don't get me started about the Royals and the Chiefs. If you can lure a Major League Baseball team or an NFL franchise into your state because you have passed legislation for star bonds, you're ahead of every other state in the country. The state of Kansas having a Major League team is a complete and utter outlier. There's as many people in the Kansas City metropolitan area as there are the entire state of Kansas. This is a small state. It's big geographically, but it's a small state. We've said this before. Missouri's twice the size of Kansas. Economically, population, everything. They have tourism. They have the Lake of the Ozarks. They have Branson. They have all these things Kansas doesn't have. We got 50 states competing against each other. What's Kansas going to do? Just wither away? Because it's crossed my mind that retiring in Texas makes a lot more sense than Kansas, so I don't have to pay that income tax. Think about it for a second. What do you do if you're a smaller state? What about Nebraska? Great state of Nebraska. They've got Nebraska football. They've got Warren Buffett. He's not going to live much longer. I don't know if all his assets are going to stay there and his company's going to stay there. They may move somewhere else that makes a hell of a lot more sense than being in Nebraska. What are they going to do? There's a big state without much population. Do they have the NFL or Major League Baseball? No, they don't. If you're Kansas, this is a push your chips across the table, all in move on star bonds. And if you want to put a caveat on this, if you said to Clark Hunt, and I think the numbers are low, I think if he builds his stadium, he's going to build around his stadium, and he wants star bonds for all of that. I think we could be looking at $5 billion for the Chiefs. If he does that and develops with sales tax businesses and whatnot, hotels and everything else around it, and uses star bonds, he's reportedly the person who wants to buy more of the bonds. He may want to buy 30 or 40% of the bonds himself, because then he's paying himself back, getting interest on something that he's getting for free. So I'm just a simpleton with a microphone. But if you're going to do it and you're Kansas, why not put a clause in there? Say, okay, we're going to pay this back over 25 years, 30 years, whatever the deal is. And if it's not paid off, Royals and Chiefs, you have a cash sum due, a lump sum at that point, like a balloon loan. What owner, let's say it came up $500 million light in sales taxes. What owner wouldn't defer $500 million for 25 years to build a new stadium? Of course they would. It's interest-free. $500 million then is only going to be like $100 million now or $150 million now. Of course you do that. There's all kinds of ways to get creative. There is no reason Kansas shouldn't lure these teams away with the greatest financial offer ever, and they absolutely should do it. I'm not rooting for each side of the state line. I'm just telling you, these states aren't equal. We sit here in Kansas City, and we've had this border war since the Civil War, and we've squabbled over things we shouldn't be squabbling over. We're Kansas Cityans. So you can be a Kansas Cityan first, which has never really happened. Especially, I'll say this, with people in Missouri. They really don't like Kansas. They really don't. And I don't know what it is. I don't think that exists really in St. Louis and Illinois so much. But it's there. And it's always under the surface. And yes, we rally around a football team and we're all Kansas Cityans. But we have a rivalry between the states. It is not going away. And it shouldn't. If Missouri, which I just see as they're not Democrats, but like the Democrats, it's like Doge. Everything going on in D.C., it's just status quo. It's always been this way in D.C., and then here comes Elon Musk. Well, it's always been this way in Kansas City that the Royals and Chiefs are in Missouri. Why? Why can't Kansas play? They should. And Missouri needs to get off their butt. I'll root for Missouri. I'm happy if the teams stay in Missouri. But they better offer the same deal Kansas is. They better get moving in Jeff City. The Republicans in Jeff City better get moving and come up with something like a star bond that is paid back with sales tax over 25 years. You can keep your teams. Now, the tricky part in Missouri is you're just keeping something you already have. You can see a major difference in retaining something versus stealing something. There is not. Do you know how many places in this country would die to have the Royals or the Chiefs? And we're talking about moving them 20 miles and Kansas wins? How can Kansas not do this? What could possibly be more important right now in the state of Kansas than this? How do you not just the publicity, what people think of your state, how cool you are. They named it Kansas Speedway. They didn't name it Kansas City, Kansas Speedway. It's Kansas Speedway. The nation will know it's a big, big deal, and it's real money, and it brings people across state lines into your state. It is tourism. Baseball is tourism. Football is tourism. There are things you can do out there by the Speedway, if that's where they choose, that are also tourism. A hotel with the casino, maybe a golf resort. We've got a Jimmy Buffett's water park going in. There's all kinds of stuff going out there. It's tourism. You don't think people drive down from Iowa to come to Kansas City to see Major League Baseball? You're wrong. That's money coming into your state that's currently going into Missouri. It is tourism. Star bonds work. Politicians don't. Politicians fail. There's a human element to the star bonds that fail. Prairie Fire was a failure. It was dumb. Maybe someday somebody sweeps in and buys the whole property and redoes it and does whatever. They're going to lose money at Prairie Fire, but it was stupid to begin with. It was a prime piece of land that was going to get developed privately. That's not where you do it. Young people in Kansas City don't know that where Kansas Speedway is and Hollywood Casino and Nebraska Furniture Mart and the Monarchs and Sporting and where all that stuff is was a joke in this town. We went 75 years without building a drive-in theater there.
It was an open field.
It was an open field. Like you could have got the land so cheap when drive-in movies were hot. Nobody even thought, oh, we'll build a drive-in theater. No, hell no, we're not building it in KCK. No. It was a running joke. Maybe it's not the coolest place in the city, but it's a cool place in our city. They've done a great thing. And they can keep this up with star bonds. I'm all for them. Tell me I'm wrong. 913-408-7957. I don't like taxes any more than you do. This tax works when it brings something new. 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
It's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Uncanceled. Great to have you with us on this Thursday. I guess for me, the bottom line is this. I think competition and holding politicians accountable are greater than some philosophical principle of being a conservative. And I am. I'm ideologically conservative. But when it doesn't apply, it's not one basket, one size fits all. What's good for Kansas isn't the same for Texas. Star bonds in Texas would make no sense. None. They've got their own incentive to create business there. Kansas does not. Each state has to find its own way based on what they are, and you risk being left behind. That's what this is about to me. You might as well compete. And the competition right now is against the state of Missouri. Jonathan is up first today on Uncanceled. Good morning, Jonathan. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing, Kevin?
Great, thank you.
You asked why does Kansas and Missouri have such a deep rivalry?
Oh, I know why.
Modern age.
I know why. I just don't think we should end it. What's this truce thing we're trying to do? Why? We're talking about business. We're not talking about a civil war.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, in the modern age, yeah, it's about business and sports. But yeah, it historically it goes back a long time, and you know, even whether one side wins over a business or a sports team or not, or whether one side does better with its college teams, we're always going to have that rivalry. I mean, that goes back to the Civil War. I'm not sure that's ever going to change. You were saying you're not sure why we have it. And yeah, it does go back to the Civil War because Missouri was a slave state.
I know. I said I know exactly why we have it. And it's not going away. And Texas and Oklahoma have it. They're separated by a river, and they have rivalries. There's states all over this country that have rivalries with the state next to them, and they compete for business. But to have these politicians in Missouri that have this Senate bill that wants some sort of truce, that's weakness. That's waving the white flag. Right. That's saying we can't keep the Royals and Chiefs unless we somehow con them into being nice to us. Go compete for it, Missouri. Go get the Royals and Chiefs.
I would agree with you. I think it's naive to think, oh, we'll just get rid of rivalries just because we changed the law. I mean, that's the thinking that the left has. Well, let's just change human nature by changing laws, you know?
Yes. We're lockstep in agreement, and I see nothing wrong with the state line competing. We are basically 50 countries bundled into one. That's what we are, and states should compete. In Nevada, 80-some% of the land in Nevada is owned by the federal government. Guess what they did? They built the #1 tourist destination in this country in the desert with no water and 110-degree heat in the summer when all the land is owned by the feds. They did it. Why? Because they competed. We're going to do something different than California and Arizona. They built Las Vegas.
That's right. And I think that's what makes federalism great. And, you know, they call the states laboratories of democracy, and it's never perfect.
Nope.
And, you know, Kansas makes mistakes, Missouri makes mistakes. But you learn from those mistakes, and then other states look at what other states are doing, where they go right or wrong and make mistakes or not, and they do likewise or not do likewise.
Yep. Good call, buddy. I appreciate it. Kansas would have the opportunity, if they got both teams, to do something their surrounding states could only dream of. Iowa, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Kansas would be in a completely different category. They'd be the only of those states to have a football team, an NFL team. And Missouri has a baseball team, but Missouri would have one, Kansas would have one, those other states don't. I mean, this is a way to separate from states that are very similar to you. If you get a chance in these small population states with big geographical areas to separate and be something different and have a quality of life and things to offer your residents that are not offered in the other states, you do it. This is the time. Technology's changing. I don't see Kansas anytime soon getting down to 0% income tax like the state of Texas. Now, I was thinking this morning, what if you did, this is just off-the-cuff stuff, okay? I've not put pen to paper. I haven't looked at this at all. But these states are doing what? They're losing population. People are moving to places with no income tax, bigger places. They're moving to Florida, moving to California. We know where the migration is going. So let's use Kansas and or Missouri. I really don't care which state. What if they said instead of a star bond, they had something similar for building a new home? Young people today say they cannot afford to build a new home. A lot of people would like to, but this is not existing homes. This is new homes. What if you said, if you build a new home in our state and use a Kansas company to build it and only Kansas contractors we'll collect your property tax over 20 years or 25 years towards the purchase price of your house. At the end of that, whatever is still due on whatever the cost was to build it, and you cap this off. You don't let people build $10 million houses. You cap it off at maybe $500,000-$600,000 for people starting out, wanting to get in a home, do whatever, and you collect their property taxes with an additional fee on it. You raise their property tax 25% higher than mine, and you collect it in Kansas, and you get people moving in here and building homes. Do you know what building one house does for the economy in any one place? There's no economic engine like new housing. It's insane what happens when people build new houses. What if they did the same thing and said, you're going to pay property tax no matter what? You want a new house? You're paying the tax. We'll collect the tax against the bonds we've sold to home builders to build houses and do it that way. I don't know if it would work, but I was thinking the same thing. Could Kansas add 300,000 new residents doing that? Probably over a course of years. There's lots of land. There's lots of places to build new houses. And when you build a new house, everyone wins. Every company, you require that every single contractor, builder, architect, every sub provider, everyone is from the state of Kansas, and you're crushing it in your state. People would come from all over to build in your state. They would. That would be a star bond for a homeowner. It's the same thing. Would you do that to get people to move from Nebraska? Would you do it to get them to move from Iowa? Would you get them to relocate their company and offer that as an incentive for employees? All kinds of these things are possible. You just have to think of them, and your politicians have to be accountable to get it right and absolutely not blow it by doing things like Prairie Fire. The Royals and Chiefs make total sense. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
Kevin Kietzman is Uncanceled and back on Kansas City Radio, 10 to 11 a.m. on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, the worst of the Swifties are the worst among us. I'm going to stand by this. Look, I can take or leave Taylor Swift. I can buy a concert ticket or not. I can hear a song on the radio or not. I don't really care. I do know what kind of whammy she has over her people, and it is toxic. It is crazy. It's hypnotic. I won't say majority, but we're into the millions of people in this country that are Swifties that will do anything for her. Now, I'm not getting into her and Travis. I don't care about that part. This is the phenomenon that is Taylor Swift. If you think Trump people love Trump and will do anything for him, multiply that by 10. These Swifties will do anything for her. Her personal life's been a train wreck. It's been a disaster. It's been well documented. She's a hater. She writes songs about not hating, but she's a hater. She's got all kinds of songs about people she was with that she hates now. That's fine. That's in everyone. That's a very human condition. But the Swifties were really upset that she got booed at the Super Bowl. And then they did something really bad. They were so upset that these boos happened, they responded to a reaction by one of the Eagles players, Gardner Johnson, who I don't know why he's picking on Travis Kelce, but of course this is going to bring Kelce into this thing. He goes on social media and puts up some sort of post that was unseemly about Kelce's former girlfriend who had a very large back of her front, for lack of a better way to say it, and Taylor Swift's pretty skinny and bony and whatever. So the post was about, man, you ought to go back to what you had before. Well, the Swifties just couldn't handle this. So C.J. Gardner-Johnson posts this, and the Swifties go after him. Not Travis. Travis is on the good side. He's with Tay-Tay. They go after him in such a vile way you can't even believe it. Some of them were so triggered by Gardner Johnson's comments on social media, it prompted hateful online attacks. Angry Swift fans took their rage out by firing off against a restaurant owned by his parents, Brian and Dell, called King's Grill. They flooded Yelp with one-star reviews and continued to clap back on social media. And one Swiftie called ICE and said they have illegals in there that have committed crimes. You need to go raid this restaurant. They're working in the kitchen. That needs to be a real crime. One poster, not the one who did that, said, I crossed a line on this one, but I don't regret it at all. Another posted, someone messes with Taylor, they're getting everything they have, everything we have from all of us. This is what they do. That's pure evil. If you're a celebrity, they're all three celebrities. Gardner Johnson, football player. Travis, a football player. Taylor's a singer. They're all three celebrities. If one celebrity attacks another celebrity and they're making fun of their sex life, or, okay, Travis's previous girlfriend was a big-bootied black girl and now he's got a skinny white girl, that's what social media is. You don't call ICE on someone's parents because they own a restaurant and put a raid on it or give them one-star reviews on Yelp. This is unbelievable. I mean, this is the most petty, vile, stupid stuff. And, we've seen a lot in social media. There's a lot of weird stuff out there, and there's a lot of mean people in the world. This is not even somebody they know or they care about. They just assume it was Eagles fans booing Taylor, and then they saw what CJ does on social media, so we're just going to hate the Eagles and all of them, and we're going after them. We're gonna move like an army and really go get them. It's crazy. It's mean is what it is. It's a lot of the stuff that she sings songs against, and they don't hear that part. They hear the other songs, the spiteful ones. Look at me now. Ha ha, you loser. There's a lot of songs like that. You missed the boat by letting me go. You broke my heart, you blank hole. And so this is what they're motivated by.
The Swifties don't understand the booing thing. It's like, it would be like if 75% of one of her concerts was filled with Kanye fans.
Yes.
And then they show Travis on the board, boo.
Right.
He doesn't like Kanye music, boo, boo, boo.
There's a compliment in getting booed.
Yeah.
You're not successful until you've been booed. There's a lot of people that live by that. Elon Musk is feeling that for the first time. He's essentially getting booed by the media now. First time in his life. I think most of everything he's ever done, people are like, wow, wow, wow. Now, no. Well, he's reached a new level, hasn't he? With something bigger than Tesla or SpaceX. He's done it, and he's getting booed. He seems to rather like it and likes fighting back. There will be pushback. There's craziness in D.C. I think my favorite of the week, and this didn't get much play, Ayanna Pressley, she's a representative in the House. She says she's willing to work with anyone who is serious about censoring the American people in the name of progress. She said this publicly at a speech, a rallying cry. I will work with anyone that will help me censor the American public, shut them up in the name of our progress. The next day, she came back at another event and announced that she's for reparations. What they want out of Trump, if he's going to save money, is to use this money for reparations only for people of African American descent. Not like the Native Americans, not reparations there for taking their land and doing all, not that. No, just us. And her quote was unbelievable. She said, quote, "We are at a moment of anti-blackness on steroids," end quote, in America right now. Because Donald John Trump is the president of the United States. I don't even know how to equate the two. She's upset with Doge. She's upset with the people in America stating what they believe and voting in what they want, and voting for what they want. She's so upset with real democracy that in 1 week, she says, I don't care about your free speech. We need to censor these people and shut them up because they're bad for progress. And then she states progress for her is the government spending trillions of dollars to give to, what are we going to do? Start doing DNA tests? We all going to try to figure out if your descendant was a slave or not? Is it only houses with 2 African-American parents? I don't know. We're a mixed country by a mile right now. So if you're born to a white and a black person and you're the child, or you do the DNA to see if your black was part of slaves, you don't know. You don't know what, you know how many people have come here from Africa since the Civil War, since the end of slavery? Do those count if they just immigrated the proper way? If your parents came 32 years ago from Senegal, does that count? This is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. She's lost her mind. They're crazy over some of this stuff. Absolutely crazy. And you just don't even know what to say about people like this. The hot new name in Washington, D.C. is that what's going on with Doge and the resistance to it, which isn't really resistance, it's just whining and crying about it, is they're calling this the D.C. Super Bowl. It's the Patriots versus the Steelers. And it's a clever take. The Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously, are Steelers. This is Stealers. It's Patriots versus people who steal. Well, you can see that's Republicans versus Democrats. I think GOP reps everywhere should embrace that and start referring to all this as the DC Super Bowl. And let young people everywhere search that, go to social media, try to figure out what that is. What exactly does this mean, the DC Super Bowl? It's Patriots versus Steelers. That's awesome. I would play that up in the biggest possible way you can. There is a absolutely no-lose situation there if you want to push forward on that. Some people in Obama's circle are leaking now that they like all this. And they're saying things to their friends on the left and the media that, we tried to cut some of these things. We just weren't successful at it, but it's good for America. We should be doing this. Why would they be doing it? They're out of sight, out of mind. The Obama people are. Why are they doing it? I think they see this as their avenue to keep Obama clinging to power in that party. We know that if he comes out in a few weeks and says something like this, that a lot of Democrats will back down a little bit. It may be a great way for him to gain control, and in 2026 and 2028, lie to the American public that I was for this. I'm for it too. This is what we're going to do. Elect a Democrat. We're for it too. And then they won't be after they get elected. Because that's what Obama does. That's what he did. And that's what he'll do. You can say anything you want about Donald Trump, but he does what he says he was going to do. He said, here's what I'm doing, and he's doing it. Obama will say, I'm for Doge. I'm for shutting down some of these agencies. We need a smaller government to get Democrats elected, and then they'll bloat the government again. Do not believe them. Do not trust them in any possible way. This is really weird that they're leaking stuff to the media that they're for some of this, because they're the only ones in the Democrat Party that are doing it, and apparently they're all Obama's lieutenants out there going, it's not a bad idea. We probably should cut this down, financially be good, and maybe we should publicly jump on board with it a little bit, which I think they should do too. And I think it'd be great for the next 2 years. We just got to not believe them when they say they're for it and they're running for office, because they won't be for it when they get elected. They'll never be for this when they get elected. And we sort of have to coach the American public on that. I think there will be a reversal. I think Obama will probably lead it. And I think they'll try to jump on board and they're going to come up with something over the next year plus, that's more moderate and to the middle. And people are going to believe it. A lot of people are going to say, oh, well, that's nice. Now they believe some of the things I believe. I can vote for these people if, like they're a better person than Donald Trump. I can vote for him. Joe Biden's a better person than Donald Trump. I can vote for him. Oh, I've got white guilt. I'm going to vote for the black man. There's all kinds of things that people do in voting. If you can just convince them on the left that you're in the middle, they'll vote for you. You can get in, and then they go wild. And then we'll wind up doing the whole thing all over again. We do have some interesting breaking news out there today. It looks like Egypt, there are reports that Egypt is working on a coalition in the Middle East to beat Trump into redeveloping Gaza. Like, we really don't want America in here doing this. We'll put together an Arab coalition. Okay. As long as there's no Hamas, these are people that don't like Hamas. Great. Put your own coalition together. Trump can sit back and go, perfect. They did it on their own. We didn't need to do it. They took my idea. They ran with it. Awesome. We don't need to be involved in that. That sounds like a really good plan. I'm all for that. We love it when stuff is breaking. We're seeing a lot of it right now. All right, we'll take a quick little break. We come back. We got some folks on the line. We're going to check in with Mark. We got more Uncanceled coming up on KCMO Talk Radio.
From the nation's heartland, it's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Hey, that's me. I'm Kevin. Coming up at the top of the hour, Dan Bongino will be with us in just a couple of minutes. We got a couple of topics for Mark today, including the Royals' new slogan for 2025. But right now, it's Stu calling in. Hello, Stu. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Hello, Kevin. I think you are quite brilliant in channeling Obama's remarks about Doge. And except I don't think you went quite far enough, because I can picture Obama saying, yes, I wanted to expose and cut all this corruption and waste and et cetera. But I was thwarted in doing so by the Republicans because they cannot stand to see a black man be successful.
Yeah, that would be heavy. I think if Obama wanted to cut, what he was going to cut was defense. And so Republicans would have met that with resistance. So I think that's part of what we're seeing here. If we're being fair, this is pretty one-sided. Trump is going after a lot of things that are pretty liberal. That's okay. But he says he's going to cut the defense. He's going to go, if he finds waste in defense, he's going to rip that out too, which I'm all in favor of.
All right. I have I'm reminded of a line from Bob Dylan, which is maybe a stretch to make it apply, but still it's stuck in my head. So I'm going to share it with you, because Bob Dylan said, you know, some people have a lot of knives on the table. They don't have a lot of food on their table, but they got a lot of knives and they got to cut something.
Well said. Great call, Stu, as always. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so very much for that. And I do think that at some point they're going to swing here on the left and go, okay, we got to be for some of this. They're going to see polling that this stuff means nothing to Americans. What they're talking about doesn't affect any of us. We don't like any of it. When you hear your money's going to this stuff, we're like, they're naming agencies we didn't even know existed. We know that everybody in America, right and left, believes the government's too big. We do. It should just be the singular number one issue for a generation of conservative politicians to go campaign on smaller government. Identify with this. Dig in. Make this the core of who and what we are. Smaller government. At its core. That is truly and absolutely what everybody wants to see. Maybe everybody would like to see the White House. Melania Trump has announced the White House tours are coming back, which is pretty cool. Mark, I've got an idea for you. Why don't we see if Mark Alford can get us a White House tour, and we'll have a contest and take a listener?
That could be fun.
Wouldn't that be cool? When I went to D.C. and did all the tours, I couldn't do the White House because Obama stopped them. Obama was president, and we couldn't get my kids in there to go through the White House. We had a little connection to go in, and you have to get a politician to sponsor you, right? I mean, that's generally, I don't think there's some lottery. You got to know somebody. You call your representative, and if your representative says, sure, we can set that up and you can do a tour. We went through the House and Senate and all those things. How much fun would it be to go through Trump's White House? Melania is setting the tours back up.
That'd be fun. Is she our guide?
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Why are Democrats against White House tours? It's a basic, fundamental question. Why are Democrats against them? The only thing I can think of is we don't want anybody near, forget about seeing, we don't want anybody near where the sausage is made, let alone seeing it. The Royals have a new slogan. It is?
Fountains up.
Now, I thought you were joking.
Hashtag fountains up. That's the new slogan.
Are there new fountains at the K this year?
No, the only thing I can think of for this is after they hit home runs, the fountains just explode up.
Sure.
So maybe they're saying they're going to have a
Home
huge
runs?
offensive output this year.
I mean, I thought maybe at least an announcement that since Trump is president, we can use more water pressure now. And fountains are really going to be up this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I know it's not clean water or anything. One of my true joys, last year, well, in past years, but last year because they were winning, we went more. We love going out there on Sunday afternoons. It's like a $17 ticket. Includes, for 4 people, $17 each, includes parking, a hot dog, a soda and chips or something. It's $70 or something for 4 people. And we would not go to the way upper deck into those seats. In fact, I never went up there once last year.
Yeah.
We just go around the outfield, sit where we want to sit on the lower level because there's empty seats. It's Sunday afternoons. Generally speaking, can be hot. One of the true thrills is the south wind to stand out there by that left field area, and the fountains go between innings, and the water blows on you. My wife grosses out. She goes, "Oh, that's so dirty." I'm like, "Oh, it feels so good."
Yeah.
I just like it, man.
It's fun.
I'll white tee it too, man. I may have like some really random looking shorts on and a t-shirt from the 80s or something. Like, there's nothing like it. Sometimes you got to remember where you're from. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Remember what it's all about. Okay. All right. If Patrick Mahomes and John Rocker fight, well, first of all, Mark, will they fight? The backdrop of this story is Mahomes and Rocker were both major league pitchers. They didn't like each other then. They don't like each other now. They got into a spat on Bourbon Street last week. Somebody who was helping Patrick Mahomes II and senior broke the thing up and got Mahomes away from Rocker, or it could have been ugly. Now Barstool Sports president Dave Portnoy has set up a fight for them to fight April 18th in West Virginia. Is this going to happen, or is Patrick Mahomes Jr. going to stop it?
I think that these two dudes want to fight, but I don't think that they're going to let Mahomes fight. I think that nobody cares about Rocker at this point, so I don't think anybody's trying to stop him from fighting. But, yeah, I don't think that they're going to let Mahomes Sr. fight.
Who's they? The family?
The family.
Can't stop him now. If he's a man, he can do whatever he wants, right? He's going to get paid. I suspect
true.
There's pretty good money here.
That's true.
If they really fought, you know there's going to be a TV deal or a streaming deal.
Oh, yeah.
What
Like
do you
maybe Netflix or I don't know.
What would the fight look like?
Rocker would knock him out.
Yeah, but do you think it would even be remotely legit?
I think that they'd start just kind of sparring, but I think Rocker would probably knock him out in the first round, which is another reason why I don't think that the Mahomes family wants to see him go out there and do that.
They'd have to have headgear.
Yeah.
I think. Be like an amateur fight, like a Golden Gloves thing. Wear the headgear, the whole thing. Rocker looks like he would just pummel him.
Yeah.
John Rocker looks like the hardest friend on earth to have. Like, I'm sure he's somebody's friend, and I know he's all in MAGA, but he's just got to be an impossible person to be around.
I was going to say, it looked in that video like he was just walking around by himself on Bourbon Street.
Makes sense. That makes more sense than anything,
Yeah.
doesn't it? At least Patrick Mahomes is surrounded by security taking care of him. So we like that. We like that. All right, this one's really weird. We've had a string of air disasters. It's not fun to talk about air disasters. This was not one. This is about a year ago. A plane flying from Cancun back to England was scheduled to land in Manchester. It was a Boeing 787-800 with 301 people. They've released the details of what went wrong on this flight, although it did land safely. They were supposed to land in Manchester. They were redirected because the winds were too high, 110-mile-an-hour winds. So they were sending them to a different airport, Midland or something, and they said, nope, not here, too windy. We're going to send you to Birmingham, England, because that's the only airport big enough. It was so far away, and then they had to circle because it was windy. They came within 18 minutes of running out of fuel and hollered Mayday. 301 people on board, 100 and some mile-an-hour winds just flying around burning fuel. And eventually, after the second time around, they said, you got to circle one more time. He's like, Mayday, Mayday, we are coming in. They landed safely. Dan Bongino's up next.